What's up, RK team? It's Avi, and welcome back to another macroeconomics lesson. Today is the day we're going to be discussing the ISLM model. This is one of the most important concepts that you're going to do in macroeconomics, at least in this semester. So let's get right into it. So first, we're going to talk about the IS model, which stands for Investment Saving Model. This model represents the goods market. So this is where the demand for goods meets the total supply of goods in the economy, and it's given by the following formula, where the total demand includes consumer spending, investment, and government spending, all influenced by income and the interest rates. Then here is the IS model or the graph of the IS relation, which shows the equilibrium in the goods market where investment is equal to savings, which means when interest rates increase, investment falls, which leads to lower output. As you can see on the graph, as the interest rate is going up, the output is going down. Here is the model for the ISLM curve, and we'll discuss it more later. But first, let's talk about the curve. So the LM model, which stands for liquidity money model, discusses the financial side, so the financial market. So this is where the money and bonds are traded, determining the interest rate and the income levels. The LM model, as you can see from this graph, represents the equilibrium in the financial markets where money demand equals money supply. If you remember, we did this in session 3. Now, there was an old LM relation where the central bank would allow the LM to be determined naturally, but in the new LM relation, the central bank controls the interest rate directly and adjusts the money supply to maintain it. So it either buys bonds or sells bonds in order to keep the interest rate at a certain level. This was also discussed in session 3. So if you're confused about that, make sure you check out that video first. Now, we put the IS and LM together. So this combines the IS curve, which represents the goods market, and the LM curve, which represents the financial markets, to show where both markets are in equilibrium. Now, this equilibrium happens at the intersection of the IS and the LM curve, meaning both the goods and financial markets are balanced. When the curves intersect, you get the equilibrium interest rate and output level, as you can see in this graph. So we have the IS curve and we have the LM curve. The IS curve showing the goods market, the LM curve showing the financial markets, and the point at which they intersect shows the equilibrium. So we have the output, equilibrium output below, and we have the equilibrium interest rate. Now, let's talk about the effects of policies. There are certain policies, as we discussed last time, such as monetary policy, that the government uses to adjust the ISLM model. They also use something called fiscal policy. So, fiscal policy deals with taxes and government spending. Expansionary fiscal policy is when there's an increase in government spending or a decrease in taxes, which shifts the IS curve outward, which means it's increasing output. So, to increase output, the government will carry out an expansionary fiscal policy. And for vice versa, they conduct a contractionary fiscal policy, which reduces government spending or increases taxes, which shift the IS curve inward, thus reducing output. Then we have the monetary policy. So here first, we should mention that the fiscal policy affects only the IS curve, and the monetary policy affects the LM curve. So for monetary expansion, which is when the central bank lowers the interest rate. So here's where people get confused. Because it's called monetary expansion, your first thought goes to interest rate increasing. But no, we're talking about increasing output when we talk about expansion. And we increase output by lowering the interest rate, which shifts the LM curve down, thus increasing output. And monetary contraction is when the central bank raises the interest rate, which shifts the LM curve up and decreases output. As you can see here, when I shift the LM curve down, there is an increase in output. And here we have monetary expansion. Just what I said, LM curve shifts down. You can see that the equilibrium has now shifted to the right, and my output has also shifted to the right. So there is an expansion in my output. Now, the government doesn't just use one of these. When dealing with policy mix, they deal with both IS and LM curve at the same time. They use a combination of fiscal and monetary policies to achieve specific economic goals. Now, for example, if there is a deep recession, governments will use an expansionary fiscal and monetary policies to boost output without increasing the deficit. Now, what this means is, first, they will use a expansionary fiscal policy in order to increase the money supply in the economy. This means they would decrease the taxes and they would increase government spending, which leads to a shift in the IS curve. But they also use an expansionary monetary policy, which boosts the output, but without increasing the deficit. So that was all. I hope you guys understand everything. And we're also, in next session, we're going to be discussing the extended version of the ISLM model. So I hope you guys understood everything. And if not, my DMs are always open. Thank you.